Good evening, and welcome to our March 12th, 2025 regular meeting of BIDA. I'd like to call to order. First, I'd like to do a roll call. I'll start with myself. Dr. Sabrina Miller Willis, Chair, BIDA.
Brian Hooker, Executive Director, BIDA.
Dr. Emmanuel Adediran, City Manager.
Celissa Jefferson, appointee Ward 4.
Yes, please.
When you speak into the microphone, please turn on the switch at the base so that folks who are watching remotely can see you. It'll show red when the mic is live. If you would repeat, Mr. Sills.
David Sills, Weather Development.
Tom Dahlia, 3321 Main Street, LLC.
Giannis Bonner, Interim Executive Director of the Gateway Center Arena, GICC, and the golf course.
Bianca Motley Broom, Mayor.
Lisa Parker, Ward 2, BIDA Board Member.
Dr. Alethea Williams, Ward 1 Rep, Secretary Treasurer, BIDA.
And I guess,
If you would stand and introduce yourselves, please.
Trevor Thompson, I'm here representing Cooper Carey.
Olivia Dorsey, Executive Assistant of Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie.
okay, thank you.
So for our note taker, it was Trevor, name again? Trevor Thompson with Cooper Carey, and Olivia Dorsey, who's the Executive Assistant to our Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. What now? I'm sorry. Okay, we'll have our prayer by our city manager, Dr. Adediran.
Let's go to the throne of grace. Eternal Father, our God, we come before you this evening, thanking you for everything you've done for us since you woke us up this morning. Lord, we thank you for traveling mercy to walk in different places where we've been today, and thank you for traveling mercy to this location here where your business will be taken care of, because the earth and the fullness belong to you. And whatever business that we do, we pray that it will be to further your kingdom and take ourselves out of this equation, and let the residents of College Park benefit from the meeting this evening, and let all that we do, all the decisions that's made tonight, will be to prosper and move forward the city. Father, we thank you, we praise your holy name, and you're awesome, Father, you're awesome, God, and all this we ask for in your majestic Son, Jesus Christ's name, we pray. Amen, amen, amen.
Amen, amen. We will now turn and we will review for approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for our February 12th, 2025 meeting?
So moved.
Second with corrections.
Okay. Celissa Jefferson, motion. Dr. Williams, second. And she has something she wants to say about them.
Yes. All right, let's go to page 6, line 68.
Ma'am, you said line 68, or did you mean 268?
No. Page 6.
Packet
page 6
Okay.
in the minutes.
There's also other page
Packet
numbers.
page
on there.
6
Thank
for the
you. Package
minutes.
page 6.
Yes. Line 68. Just a question about what Director Hooker was talking about. For temporary uses for our, I'm assuming it's BIDA properties, not BIDA room.
That is correct, ma'am.
Next, packet page 10, line 257, with the vote. The motion carried unanimously. There was no abstention or no opposition as well. And package page 16, starting at line 540 in reference to creed, it should be CREED. Starting at line 540 and throughout any discussions related to creed, CREED. And then package page 18, line 600. The vote was opposed by Mayor Motley Broom as well as myself, Dr. Lethea Williams. And that's it for me.
And Madam Chair, following up with Dr. Williams, there are several other on package page 17 references to KRE that she would want to be corrected to reflect creed. So I don't know if we need to enumerate those or if we can reflect that all of the references to KRE should be corrected to creed.
Correct. We'll have Secretary make sure she make those corrections.
Okay, so Madam Chair, having asked to enumerate it, I would also like to add from what I can see quickly on package page 17, line 574 has a reference to creed, line 577, line 579, line 585, line 586, line 589, and line 595. So those line items on package page 17, everywhere that capital K, capital R, capital E is referenced, that should be creed, capital CREED in lowercase. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you. Okay. Now that it has been properly moved and second, any other discussion? So approval of the minutes
As amended.
as amended. Motion,
Well, there was a motion.
We already had the motion.
Before, then there was discussion. So do we have to do?
But we
have to
finished.
redo?
we still have to redo it? We did, okay. Okay, then, motion to approve as amended. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda? Board, before we approve the agenda, we have a few revisions. I can go ahead and do those?
Would you like me to? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Due to technical difficulty, we were not able to get a presentation from PMG added to slot 7 on the agenda that was intended at the February board meeting. The board passed a resolution requiring PMG to make a presentation at tonight's meeting, and they were mistakenly left off the agenda. The chair proposes that we add the PMG presentation re 6 West Residential Development as item number 7 on the agenda, and item number 8 would become other matters. Now, the chair has asked for one more discretion. We know that board member Jamel McKenzie is on a flight that's expected to land at approximately 7:15 p.m. And so the chair requests that you all be flexible and potentially have that PMG presentation take place after executive session in the event that Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie's flight is delayed, or she may take a brief adjournment to give Mayor Pro Tem time to arrive if her plane's running a few minutes late. And then finally, at the chair and the attorney's recommendation, we should revise line item 10 to read reconvene into public session and insert 3 times. 10A, approval of executive session minutes. 10B, approval of executive session affidavit. And 10C, staff recommendations following executive session.
Okay,
Can you repeat those again for me, please?
Okay, item 10A, approval of executive session minutes. Item 10B, approval of executive session affidavit. You know, that thing that Sabrisa's always chasing y'all around to sign. We're gonna try to get that signed tonight. And then item C, staff recommendations following executive session, so we can help get the motions right, based on what you all wanna do coming out of executive session.
okay.
Did that clarify?
Okay, and with those revisions, can I get a motion?
One more.
Okay,
One more item, please. And I'm not sure if I want to add something to the executive session section of it. I don't know. And it's about real estate, so can I say it out? Is it okay?
We can just talk about it in executive session. You don't need to amend the public one.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
okay, so with those revisions, can I get a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Dr. Solicitor. Do I get a second? Okay, Ms. Parker. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're now down to the new business. This item was added to the agenda to clear up any discrepancies for our last meeting about our schedule. So did everybody get a chance to look at the updated schedule? It's in the package. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the updated schedule?
So moved. Second.
Okay, Ms. Jefferson, second by Dr. Williams. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. A motion, any abstentions? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. I'll do the disclosure there. Confidentiality and non-disclosure policy. And this policy is a matter of discussion only. Afterwards, we'll ask the board to amend the agenda to add action items to approve a specific non-disclosure agreement. Now, I will turn it over to our executive director and our BIDA attorney.
Thank you. Can we pull up that presentation? So what we, and
You got
here's
the
the
click.
clicker.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, I
You want me to do that? Okay.
If you want me to, I'll do it.
So I'll just introduce it. This is just for discussion only. We thought it important, and Brian's going to assist in this discussion. We put this in a presentation format so that it will make it a little more exciting. You just won't hear me or Brian speaking. And so we wanted to put this out for your consideration and have a policy hopefully adopted, have you all discuss whether or not any revisions need to be made, what you think about the policy overall. And as was stated, that following this presentation, there'll be a specific ask for you to approve a specific non-disclosure for a project that we'll discuss in the executive session. This one, which, okay. So Brian goes out and negotiates these deals. Part of your executive director, he goes out, he negotiates with developers, he speaks with them. And so this particular agreement is designed, this policy is designed to protect and allow him to do his job in the most efficient manner possible. I'm going to let him sort of talk about why this is important as opposed to what he does, as opposed to just reading straight from the screen.
Thank you, Counselor. So tonight I'll be giving you an update on a project called Project Bulldog. Tonight, you'll be hearing from another project called Project Extra. These project code names are very commonplace in the world of economic development. Our state economic development agency, our regional and county support agencies are all accustomed to dealing with clients who would like to remain confidential. It's to their competitive advantage not to reveal what sites they're considering as they talk about creating significant capital investment and along that jobs and wages that we want to receive. So economic development organizations regularly deal with confidential information and regularly engage in executing confidentiality agreements so that we can receive information such as the name of the client. They're often represented by a developer or site selection consultant who conceals the name of the client, typically a corporate client, until they are ready for that to be revealed. But also the nature of the project. What type of land is being sought after? What type of facility would be constructed? What type of jobs would be created? What the wages for those jobs would be? What kind of capital investment is expected? What type of incentives are needed to make the deal done? These are things that clients all want to keep confidential that we deal with on a daily basis. Tonight in executive session, you will be hearing from one of those presenters who at this moment, because we haven't executed a non-disclosure agreement with that developer, at this moment he couldn't tell us who he's representing, and that would significantly reduce the excitement of the presentation. So I just wanted to share, that's just practical, real world stuff that we deal with on a day in, day out basis as we are seeking to serve folks who are looking to locate within College Park. Thank you, Council.
And there are going to be, of course, exceptions to this policy. Any information that is in the public domain, any information that's disclosed to any board member by a third party who does not have the same confidentiality restrictions, that independently developed information by a member who obtains information without use or reference to the confidential information, and anything that's required to be disclosed by law, and we know what those are pursuant to the Open Records Act, but we are allowed to keep information concerning property acquisition and property disposition. We are able to keep that outside of the public domain until the transaction is ready to be closed or voted upon in a public setting. So this is a broad hierarchy of what constitutes confidential information. Obviously, the legal advice you receive is privileged communications. Any legal advice that you receive from your attorneys, that is the highest of your privileges. Internal communications are concerning non-public meeting deliberations, sensitive financial data, proprietary business information, and personal information. And 2 through 5 really relate to what Brian was discussing, your executive director was just discussing moments ago. So we're going to ask, the policy is going to ask that the board members impose on themselves these particular confidentiality obligations. Just moving backwards a little bit, your charter, the constitutional amendment creating BIDA allows for this body to adopt internal rules and regulations concerning the board, your member conduct. And what this does is sort of outline what this is, maintaining strict confidentiality, taking efforts to prevent unauthorized disclosures, avoiding any personal benefit that goes more to conflict of interest, implement protection measures, making sure that you don't take information that's confidential, information that's shared during executive session, and disclose that to third-party folks or the public who don't have, who are not entitled to that information, and that you return or destroy materials that we have to do so in order to keep the confidentiality of that information. There are times when some deals may not go all the way through to completion, and we may be in possession of some financial information, and the developer, they may want that information back, or the project the project manager, whomever is running the point, will want the information back. Brian, you want to add anything?
Yes. Practically speaking, our attorney's done a wonderful job of talking about the obligations and describing what's in the policy. For us, it's very practical. We sign an agreement saying we will not disclose. I imagine it's a bit challenging for an owner to really get some penalty from us if in fact we do disclose. So the attorney can speak to those legal ramifications, but from a practical standpoint, keeping this information confidential is crucial to our reputation as an organization that is open for business. And it also is crucial to seeing the deal through to announcement. Revealing the information prematurely could significantly put the deal at risk. So practical considerations of our ongoing reputation and our pursuit of the deal really encourage us to hold true to these confidentiality agreements.
And so, of course, that leads us into how we implement and how we all comply, will seek to comply to abide by the tenets of this particular policy. And of course, we want to have an annual, we're proposing, this is all proposed, this is a draft, subject to you all making whatever changes this body desires or wants to make, if any. Annual acknowledgement, we think that's important, so it just keeps it fresh in everyone's mind, that we protect our digital resources through secure information. One of the ways that we decide to do, we will actually mark what's privileged on there. We will do watermarks. We will put headings on there so that it will be easily known to the member reviewing it that this is something that should not be publicly disclosed. We want to propose annual training on this as part of our ongoing training and having these regular educational sessions. And of course, you always have access to your BIDA counsel if there are any questions or concerns about the policy. So how long do these confidential obligations last? As soon as you take service, when you're appointed or during the time of your appointment. Even after you leave during your post-service period, there may be things that you have heard that's confidential that you still cannot disclose. When you learned of that information during the course of your service, if you're actively serving, of course, during the active service period, we would ask that obviously would apply to you to keep the information that is confidential and sensitive, keep that from public disclosure. And of course, if there's a written release, if by adopting this policy, everyone will be acknowledging their commitment to an obligation to comply with these obligations. And if BIDA, the majority of BIDA, takes a vote to release that information, then that information can then be publicly disclosed. Well, that heading, this really is talked about the heading. Let me see here. This is violations and consequences. I don't know why that came out like that. That's fine. So what we're talking about, if there's a policy violation, we want to state that this is considered a serious ethical infraction. A policy really is no good unless there is some teeth to the policy. And so we have, these potential removal, of course, that's subject to Georgia law. There are very specific provisions as to how a member of an appointed authority can be removed. We want to actually emphasize that there could be legal liability or exposure if we have entered into a confidentiality agreement with a prospective developer or project for a project, and then the information gets disclosed. And so there could be legal liability exposure to the board, and we don't want that. And of course, as Brian mentioned, your reputational damage. No one would want to come do business or seek to do business if they didn't have any kind of assurance that their information would be kept confidential. And that's it. That's the end of the that's the end of that. If anyone has any questions and want me to go back, I can, but we can open it up, Madam Chair, to discussions.
Okay.
Amongst the board
Thank you,
members.
Council.
Got that at the top.
Yes, okay. Thank you, council. Does anyone on the board wish to give any final direction to the staff on this proposal? Okay,
Madam Chair, I have two
yes, Ms.
questions.
Jefferson.
My first question is, Attorney Wiley, this does not replace us doing an NDA, correct?
It actually works in conjunction with the
With it.
NDA.
Okay, so
and
that's
so
what was-
yeah, we'll be segue
okay.
into that. So this sort of is
Okay.
the precursor to that, and we'll talk
Got
about
it.
that
Okay.
after we get some direction and feedback from you all.
Okay, then my second question is, our current climate, we have had issues where our executive session information has been disclosed through public, through online entities. So how I know that you kind of have like an umbrella clause, but how are we protected as far as those digital platforms, information being handed to those digital platforms? And in conjunction with that, I know I always ask for my packet a soft copy, but some of us have hard copies. So how do you avoid, say if somebody drops their packet before going out of this meeting, I don't know if there's a way where we can obtain maybe a shredder or something like that, or I don't know.
And there are a couple of go ahead.
Yeah, and then also, do we add this to our executive affidavit? Does this get added to it so that we're signing off on it?
I'll start with your second question, your last question. So this would not be, the information regarding this policy is contained herein would not be a part of the executive session affidavit. That affidavit only pertains to, you only discuss what you were supposed to discuss in executive session. So if we say we're going in to talk about real estate, that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about personnel or litigation. So the executive session only affirms that, affidavit only affirms that. As for how we can prevent any inadvertent disclosure, obviously this policy is designed and intended to address intentional disclosure.
Got it.
Obviously, we want to be careful in what we're doing and when we're handling sensitive information. There are a number of ways we could deal with that. We could, and I have done this before. Go ahead, Brian.
Very specifically, so you all will know this, we have access to a large shredder at City Hall. And what many of you could choose to do is to leave your packet with us when you're done with it, and we can make sure that it is disposed of properly. That's something that Sabrith has been doing for us. So I'm glad you brought that up to remind everybody, if you don't have to take your packet with you, feel free to leave it behind so that we can dispose of it properly. But an attorney is going to talk about other things we can do for markings, et cetera.
No, that's what I was going to say. I was just, you read my mind. I was going to say we can take up the items when we pass them out. We can take them back up before we leave executive session. We can hold them, and that way the member won't be in possession of the confidential or privileged information. Obviously, we will, like I said, we're going to watermark things and try to make it really, really clear, because obviously we don't tell you all. If your staff doesn't tell you, then how will you know? And there could be inadvertent disclosure. Also, as far as we're going to discuss code of conduct policy after this particular item, and within that code of conduct, violation of executive session privileges will be addressed in the code of conduct.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Question though, what
Okay,
about
Dr.
the
Adedira.
electronic copies? How can you prevent that from being leaked out? And we know the hard copy, get turned into separated. What about those that have them on the laptop? How do you prevent
Oh,
that?
on the laptop? Well, what I'll do is when I send privileged communication, I will say attorney-client privilege and put it on there, and I will make a point to put the watermark and maybe put it in the subject line. So we're just going to be operate under the just assuming everyone is going to act according to their obligations, and then so we're going to be able to trust. We're going to trust that everyone will abide by their obligations, and the failure to do that could be addressed in your code of conduct policy if this body wants to adopt a code of conduct policy.
To add to that, Counselor and Mr. City Manager, we have had some discussions about the tools that we use to support the BIDA meeting. One of those being Minitrack. And there are other options. The attorney and I have discussed this, and we've shared with the chair that we've talked about this. Everything ranging from SharePoint to board docs to different things in between. And what happens in various options, you can deliver everything electronically in a manner that it can't be forwarded. And so there are, but that's the harder solution to use. The easier SharePoint, everybody has access to, and they can do what they want to. So there's a trade-off between the cost and the difficulty of use of a tool versus the freedom to have something easy to use that is easy for everyone. The other trade-off, many of you like hard copy packets. Some of these tools keep things in the electronic environment under lock and key, so you don't get that. I imagine that the tablets let you sketch on them or something. They probably do that, but I haven't looked into that further. But there are tools that can address that concern. I think one of the reasons we encourage the chair to allow us to have this conversation is to figure out where you all are on this spectrum. Because we didn't want to come in here with a draconian proposal and a resolution to say, bam, take it. This is something that we would love to be, and we should offer it up to you so you can collaborate and decide how you as an organization want to move forward.
And then we'll take your direction from the board as to how you all want us to proceed, if you all want us to proceed.
Anybody else? All right, Dr. Williams.
Besides myself, who else gets a hard copy?
I get a
You
hard
do?
copy.
Oh, that was just me, because I was going to give you the easy solution, but never mind.
I get hard copy. I'll give it to Brian. It's great to write after the meeting.
He doesn't even pick it up before the meeting. He picks it up in the meeting, looks at it in the meeting, gives it back after the meeting. I found this out when Sabritha wasn't here last week and I had more packets to carry home. Last month, excuse me.
I'm actually okay with electronic copies. I just kind of like paper and I get to scribble. But that's my preference and I'm willing to pivot. So it's up to the other two.
Well, I think you can still get physical copies. It's just what you want to do afterwards, after the discussions, or you just maintain them in a place of safekeeping. If it's something that's super, super sensitive, Brian might ask, if it's financial data, he might ask us to take them all back up and give them to him before he leaves, to protect the sensitive nature of financial information he may have acquired during his negotiations. So, if you all want us to continue working on this sort of and giving some directives and emails, if you have any additional thoughts or concerns, we can try to make something more formal for the next meeting for you to consider and put it in a resolution form. This is just a draft, and maybe at the April meeting, if you don't have any hard amendments or revisions, we can sort of use this as the body, as a template for a formal policy.
Well, you have something else to say, Ms. Jefferson?
Do we need to make a motion on it, or you just need general?
This was just discussion, and I wanted to get directive from the board as to what you all wanted me to do.
No, I think that it's an excellent initiative. I
Item
agree with
2.
it.
So I would like for you,
Continue.
working on it and bring us something back at the next meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we're going to segue into the non-disclosure that Brian spoke of earlier.
Okay, and I think that's the next thing, right?
Yes. So in accordance with the spirit of confidentiality, we have been presented with a confidentiality agreement from the site selection consultant working with a developer who will be proposing to us later on tonight. And so we're asking the chair to call for a motion to authorize her to execute this confidentiality agreement, binding BIDA to these terms. We shared it with you electronically a little bit earlier today, and we had some revisions made to it by our attorney, minor revisions that are acceptable. What you saw was after those revisions, so you've seen the final version. So we've asked that you call for a motion to authorize the chair to execute the confidentiality agreement between BIDA and a company called Savills Inc.
Okay. We have a motion.
So moved.
By Solicitor, we have a second? Okay, second by Ms. Parker. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it passes, motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, then we're gonna do the code of conduct also, right?
That's going to be the next one.
Okay.
Code of conduct.
Yes, okay, the next matter is for discussion only. And, we're gonna turn that over to the executive director and the BIDA attorney.
Yeah, we're gonna pull that up, the code of conduct. You have it up?
So, yes.
Code of conduct. Yes, ma'am.
It's the site selection consultant. Their name is Savills Inc.
Then I'll talk about it more in executive session. I think they're pulling up the presentation slides. You don't have it? I don't have it?
Thank you, ma'am.
Again, this policy is going to be just for discussion purposes only, and it's sort of, it coincides or correlates with the previous non-disclosure policy and obligation and the confidentiality. What this does, again, operating from the authority of your enabling legislation, your constitutional amendment, you are able to establish codes of conduct that govern your behavior. There was nothing that precipitated this particular presentation or this draft. However, it is common for bodies such as yourselves to have a code of conduct. And what it does is we will have a detailed code of conduct outlining those principles and compliance requirements. And then secondly, there is, for your discussion, a pledge to comply with the Code of Ethics in Government Service. I will say if that's just a formality, because those ethics provisions in Georgia statute apply to you all, whether or not you take the pledge, but it's sort of a show of good faith. So the general principles with respect to compliance, we know that everyone acts with integrity, respect, impartiality, and board fidelity to the board, and of course, in compliance with the law. This is coming straight from the policy. I sort of broke it down in this manner so that it'll be easier for you all to discuss as a body and for members of the public in attendance to view. So conflicts of interest, I just want to say, as a former ethics officer, there is nothing wrong with having a conflict of interest. I'll repeat, there is nothing wrong with having a conflict of interest. Where people run into problems is that they fail to disclose the conflict, they don't get it resolved, and they act in disregard of the conflict. So having a conflict of interest is normal. Everyone had lives and business ties and in the community with folks, just as a matter of course. So it's not uncommon for instances to occur where a matter may come before this body where someone may have an actual conflict of interest. So there are three types of conflicts of interest. Really, there are two, because number 2 and number 3 can mean really the same thing. But the actual and direct conflicts mean when there are members' official responsibilities and personal interests, say having a financial interest in a company under consideration by BIDA, that's an example of an actual or direct conflict of interest. And so what happens? You must promptly disclose any conflicts to the chair, which means to the board, come to the board, and you must then recuse yourself from any related discussions and votes and never use your position for personal gain or to benefit such person with whom you have a conflict, meaning relatives, friends, or associates. And the other two, perceived conflicts or potential conflicts, those exist And the law covers those. You may not have an actual, but if a situation exists where it may appear to a reasonable person that there's a conflict of interest, even if there is no actual improper influence, there could be a perceived conflict of interest. And the goal, of course, is we don't want to undermine public trust. Conflicts of interest are necessary, and honoring conflicts of interest policies are necessary to foster public trust in the actions that you're taking as a public entity. So here we are, we're sort of going back to your duty of confidentiality, that in this code of conduct will require you to protect non-public information. It prohibits personal use, any kind of information gained in the normal course of doing your duties as a member of this body. You can't use that for your personal use or gain, and the duty continues even after you may have, your term has ended, and you may be prohibited from disclosing confidential information learned during your service. Again, the goal is to promote transparency, professionalism, and of course, we put attendance here. Members come to the meetings, and unless you're excused, actively participate. And this is just something that's thrown in here. You all can tell me to take this out. But the goal is to say that everyone comes to the meetings prepared to do the public business for which you have been appointed. Then there is another provision in the policy proposed draft. It talks about intentionally misleading, misrepresent, or cause third parties to mislead or represent any official action taken by BIDA. That goes back to our reputation as a body, and that goes back to making certain that you have fidelity to the board, even if there is a decision you don't like. And it's just a commitment to honesty and accuracy. We want the public to be confident in what this body is doing. And so these are all self-imposed obligations that you all may or may not want to consider. Then, of course, here's what do you do if somebody violates the code of conduct? So again, policies mean nothing if there is no means to enforce them. So there could be a complaint process, an investigation and hearing, preliminary review. The chair will review it to see if there warrants a further investigation. Frivolous complaints will be dismissed. So I guess there's a preliminary review, and you can assume that in conjunction with counsel to see if there's something that is meritorious to proceed with an investigation and hearing. The goal is to not allow just flimsy or complaints that are based on nothing but speculation. We want to avoid that because members should not be accused without some sort of reasonable, objective information that forms the basis of the complaint. And then if there's a determination that there has been some type of violation, then this body will determine whether or not a violation occurred and what sanctions are warranted. Of course, all of this is just subject to your review, your discussion, and direction. So there is what's called progressive sanctions and monitoring, verbal warnings, written warnings, public reprimand or censure, monetary fine, suspension or removal. Of course, that's the most, I should put that as put some asterisks by that because only Georgia law can dictate the manner in which you're removed. So I'm not sure, I'm sorry for the overlap of some of the words. My version does not show that. I'll email it to you all as well. So of course, the overall policy and purpose behind this particular proposal is to reaffirm your commitment to the Constitution, upholding the Constitution and the laws of United States, Georgia, and local governments, the city of College Park. Impartiality and anti-corruption, it fosters that, having a code of conduct. It gives protection for information that you receive, and it enhances public trust. Those are just the policies. And that is the conclusion of that, Madam Chair. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you.
To see if anyone wants to have any comments.
Okay, board, do we have any final direction to our staff about this proposal? All right, Mayor.
Madam Chair, I like the spirit of it. I think if someone has a complaint, I would think that maybe that needs to go outside of the body for review, as opposed to having the chair or the vice chair make a determination. Maybe that's outside counsel or whomever, but I think if someone has a complaint, then it probably needs to be removed from the body to make a determination about the validity of it.
That's a fair
Any
comment.
others?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a fair
Madam Chair,
comment.
yeah, that was gonna be, thank you, Mayor, that was gonna be my suggestion as well, to have a neutral third party in conjunction with disclosure, of the
Okay.
complaint, either the attorney or city manager, economic development director.
That
Some-
was
some neutral
Member
third
Solicitor's
party.
suggestion. Jefferson speaking. Just telling them.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting. they're
Thank you,
online.
Ms. Jefferson. All right. Dr. Williams.
This is a question for discussion because I'm not sure how it works. I'm going into memory, right? So forgive me. Federal government, they have a limit of $25 for gifts. Can't take anything above $25. Do we as a body want to set a threshold? Do we just want to say $0? Like, do we want to put something behind that in terms of accepting gifts?
All right, Mayor.
I think we're subject to the ethics
Yeah.
ordinance that the city has passed, are we not?
I don't know, but I would think so. I would think that all appointed members
Yeah,
of the
it does.
city. I can double check, Madam Mayor, but I think that's probably right.
And and I think that limits $100.
Yeah.
Way low.
I think we should put a dollar amount in there.
I do know that, when there are people who may want to take folks out to dinner or lunch when you are negotiating business, which is a little different from what the city does, since the BIDA is created for that purpose. And so there may be some exchange of monetary consideration if someone wants to take Brian out to dinner and take him to where think of a
Where you
fancy
wanna go,
spot,
Brian?
a fancy spot. Okay. Then can they buy him? Can he accept the payment of a lunch in connection with that particular negotiations? And if it's under $100, I think that would be fine. I don't know if he wants to go anywhere for more fancy than $100 meal, but that would be the limit unless this body did something different.
Usually, if it's more than $100, you buying something other than food.
That's
I think, and
All right, Mayor.
I apologize, Madam Chair. I think you can't accept anything above 100, and that you can have sort of the normal. I don't remember exactly what the language is, but there's an allowance for
meals.
the customary cost of a meal or something like that.
I will.
I can double check.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I will, when I go back and tighten this up, I will make specific references to and include the whatever the city's ordinance is. So it'll be clear in the policy.
All right. Thank you.
And so I guess we'll go ahead and we'll bring something back in April for your consideration for resolution and adoption. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, council. Next thing we have is the Price Barbershop Resolution renovations.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet, you have a resolution that is in reference to the Price Barbershop. So let me sum it up for you. Mayor Pro Tem and Ward 1 Councilwoman Mel McKenzie is allocated in her city council budget a significant amount of money to move forward with some initial assessment of the Price Barbershop and the adjacent duplex for historic preservation in conjunction with FOA and our other historic preservation partners in the city. What we've set up is a situation where BIDA owns the property and the city has the funds to do the work. So we, BIDA, as the property owner, need to authorize the city to have access to and to do the work that needs to be done. In this particular case, the amount that's allocated is $200,000, and the work is some fairly straightforward general contractor work, a roof replacement, but also engaging an architect to do a full renovation study, so we know exactly how much it will cost to bring the Price Barbershop up to a historic value, and that study would include community engagement to get input on that, as well as using some funds to pay the grant writer, who's part of our environmental consulting team, to raise more funds to assist with the project. So since in a resolution now, whereas BIDA is the owner of the property, and it's the intention of BIDA to identify, preserve, and protect in perpetuity the historic scenic condition of the property, and where BIDA desires to work in conjunction with the City of College Park to achieve these aims, and where Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie has allotted $200,000 in her budget, we are asking you to resolve that BIDA accepts the $200,000 in the City Ward 1 budget for the purpose of improving, repairing, enhancing, and renovating Price Barbershop. And the city and its designated agents and contractors are authorized to enter upon the property and do the work. And the executive, I think that's a typo, director and BIDA chair are hereby authorized and directed to do or cause to be done all such things and acts on behalf of BIDA as may deem necessary to carry out and effectuate fully the intent of this resolution. So that was the legalese. Were there any questions or concerns about that?
Okay, Mayor.
This was something that was adopted by the entire council. So in terms of the wording, I mean, this is something that, this is a city initiative. I understand that it is part of the community enhancement funds, but this is something that no one individual can do on their own.
Okay.
This is an act of the governing body.
Okay.
And so I think the resolution should reflect that, because I think that that's just the way it works.
Okay. Well, how about whereas, if I may, Mayor, you have, let me let you finish before I make a recommendation.
And then I just had a question about the work itself. So go ahead if you want to.
Okay.
Read the last whereas.
And
on
the
first
last
page.
whereas on the first page,
Yes.
whereas Ward 1 Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie proposed and City Council adopted and allotted $200,000. Would that satisfy you?
I mean, I think that's fair.
Okay.
Making those in real time, Brian.
Okay.
And in regard to what the $200,000 is going to cover, you said it was general demolition work? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
So what we we actually had a meeting at the site to go over. I'm going to make one more change too in the resolution, that is $200,000 in the city's budget, not the city's Ward 1 budget, if that's keeping with the spirit of what you recommended. So what we wanted to do is be able to use contractors who are available to us at the city, typically in increments in less than $10,000. And there's been a previous study on the property that identified some things that needed to be done. And then there's some things that we could see that were obvious. Cleanup and removal of some of the hazardous waste from some the squatters who've been in there before. Repairing a hole in the floor that was caused by a fire lit by squatters who were in the property before. Those things are obvious, scraping ceilings that are hanging, so just general cleanup. On the exterior, it's the exterior and the study both show there's water intrusion. And so one of the main things we need to address is the water intrusion by replacing the roof with a comparable replacement that does not impact the historic character. We didn't want to get into all of the details where the historic character is, but protecting the water intrusion envelope addressing the cleanup and some repair inside, and then outside cleaning up the grounds, repairing the fence around the property. So those are all basic things that we felt that we could accomplish within the $200,000.
So you're not putting this out for bid, you're just gonna be doing small projects?
My suspicion is that the roof will have to go out to bid because the roof will exceed the threshold, and that the remainder of those will be small projects. We also have an architect that we will need to engage. And I was told by a friend of mine, there's a thing called a learned practitioner exception to procurement law in Georgia that would allow us to hire the architect of our choosing and not have to go through an extensive or exhaustive procurement process. So my expectations are we got a contractor to do the basic work. We'll be able to engage an attorney, an architect, excuse me. Attorneys are learned practitioners too.
We are.
But we would need, the roof, I suspect, will exceed the threshold and will require bids.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other? Okay.
Madam Chair?
All right, Ms. Jefferson?
Yes. So I have a comment and some questions. My first comment is, I think that this is great. I think that when this board decided to create the annexation for the four-year group, to be able to do the work on this historic establishment, it's a great achievement. However, my question is in regards to this resolution doesn't mention the four-year group, like what is their role in conjunction with it? And in addition to that, I know that BIDA, the way we did that annexation, that BIDA still has the property. But what happens, we just did the annexation to take it out of the sale of 6 West. But then what happens to the property, I mean, once we're long and gone and removed from the board, how do we prevent the property from being sold? I know at one point we were trying to get it registered as a historic landmark, but I don't know where we ended with that. And the restriction on the deeds and so on and so forth. So those are just my two. And my last comment was, now this project to me would be a great opportunity in our BIDA budget to do that separate allocation for preservation fund, so that we can be able to track it just in case the city or FOIA or we need it for historical mapping to get approved for the historic landmark.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir, Council.
I want to, so we've been talking about Price Barbershop. The physical address is 1988 Harvard Avenue. Adjacent to the property, is an undeveloped parcel, 1986 Harvard Avenue. And I think both of those are considered by this body to have, you all want to have some kind of historical protection for not only the 1988 Harvard Avenue, where the barbershop actually sits, but the adjacent property that's undeveloped, 1986 Harvard Avenue. And so you're correct. We can, I can draft, and we can draft some conservation deeds, and we can make it run with the land. It'll be binding on any future persons who may want to buy the property. It will restrict its use, and so we can put some covenants that run with the land, and that will do that. As far as the any kind of administrative acts or for putting on the historical register, I'm not really familiar with that, Brian. Or if you are, maybe we can talk about it.
We can look further into that. But the other point that you brought up was FOA's involvement, and so the recommendations that we put together have come from FOA's summary of the meeting we had with FOA on the site. And FOA is on board. We're actually meeting next week to talk about next steps in terms of engaging the architect, because they will be crucial in the community engagement to make sure that their wishes are also reflected in what the architect ultimately designs.
So do we ultimately, having said that, do we ultimately need an IGA with FOA?
FOA is not governmental, it's a nonprofit, so it would
Okay.
be more like an MOU. But that wouldn't be a bad idea
Okay.
to formalize that relationship, yes.
All right,
Okay.
we'll work on that. And so the motion, Madam Mayor, I made the change to the clause. Let me make certain that I have what you intended and what Brian intended. Whereas Ward 1 Councilman and Mayor Pro Tem Jamel McKenzie has proposed and City Council has allotted $200,000 of the city's budget for the purpose of improving, repairing, enhancing, and renovating Price Barbershop. Is that the language sufficient?
Yes, ma'am, and I think that there was a
Also, in the
mirroring in
resolved,
number one.
Number one,
The
city's budget.
city's
so that
budget.
one
Strike
needs to be
Ward 1.
removed.
Yes, the city's budget, and I made the executive director and BIDA chair.
In number 3.
Okay, very good.
Now, based on your conversation, I'm sorry, Madam.
Should we say which year budget, Madam?
I'm sorry.
Mayor? Which year's budget? The city's
It was a
20,
fiscal 25 budget, 24-25.
okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, okay,
You
Brian.
also mentioned the other property, 1986 Harvard Avenue. Are you referring, that's the parking lot that's across the street, not adjacent.
Is it across the street or adjacent to it?
Next door.
It's next door on the same side.
Yeah, if you're facing Price Barbershop on the right.
Colony Street separates.
Okay, we're talking about different things, and that's what I
They're
want.
adjacent.
There's two buildings.
Okay.
So,
It's a two.
yes, so just to clarify, you have the Price Barbershop. If you are facing it and you look to the right, which would be west,
Yeah.
there's a duplex that we are attempting to preserve and use as a museum to support FOA and the Price Barbershop. So those are the structures. If you are facing the barbershop again and you look to the left, which is east, there's a street.
Right.
And across the street is a parking lot that some folks have also requested, could that be included to support the visitors who are coming to the historical center?
Yeah.
So when you mentioned 1986, I didn't know which side you were
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about.
I was saying to the right, if you're facing to the right. And I don't know if we need to put those other parcels, will we be doing any of the renovations to any of those other parcels as a part of this particular allotment?
So with this, yes, the majority of the renovations are to the duplex, which is the adjacent property, not just to the barber shop itself.
Okay.
Because they're connected, and FOA's intent, as I understand it, and I'm sure a lot of you understand better than I am, but their intent is that they've got lots of historical artifacts from 1 square mile that they want to use the duplex, or at least part of it, to display historically as a museum or an exhibit of sort. That mean.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Dr. Adair, you
Yeah,
had something to say
yes,
first.
I remember, this same body here, the parking lot was also supposed to be part of the,
Part of it.
yeah, part of it, so people can park there and go, I remember vividly that the parking lot,
So
yeah,
it is 3 parcels.
yeah.
I will, if it pleases the board, Madam Chair, I will add the 1986 parcel to this resolution, as well as the one across the street. I was trying to look for the tax parcel ID number, and maybe, so we can put that on the record as to which properties we're speaking of.
Okay.
And maybe we can, if we table this after we come out of executive, I can look it up while we're in executive
Could
session.
we vote to, we ask you all to vote?
Hold on.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Um,
okay, hold 1 second. Okay, Mary, you had something to say first.
Well, I did have a question about whether or not these funds were going to be used for the parking lot. I mean, I would think that the $200,000 would be exhausted just on the barber shop and the duplex itself. So this is really about just accepting these funds to BIDA for that work. So I'm not sure that the parking lot needs to be included in this resolution, because it seems like this is just speaking to improving right here. I don't know that we're going to even get to the parking lot right now. I'm not saying, Member Jefferson, that we're not addressing it, but I just think in regard to this resolution, getting the parcel number for the second on the right, if you are facing Price Barbershop, getting that parcel number and including that in the resolution should be sufficient.
What I was thinking was that it all
Okay,
be
excuse me.
inclusive.
All right, Ms. Jefferson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, Ms. Jefferson.
I'm sorry.
You good.
Chair, I apologize. I was just thinking that it'd be all inclusive, just in case you may have someone that come up and say, hey, we want to donate something towards the parking lot, concrete, or I don't know. Because we don't have an itemization of what all the 200,000 will be used for. I was just saying that it will be simpler to have all the parcels together. Work may not be done on the parking lot, but have a resolution where it's all inclusive, at least the parcels. It's not that you're saying that the 200,000 is solely, it's not, you get what I'm saying? It's not that the 200, we don't know right now what the itemization of the 200,000. So
Right.
whatever is used towards, it's inclusive of all the parcels that's related to that annexation, to that,
And
to
I,
that covenant.
because I didn't know about the parking lot, and like
Yeah.
you say now that I know that,
Yeah.
it would be best to, we know it's a package.
And include it.
Excuse me, okay. Dr. Williams?
I get what you're saying, Member Jefferson. However, thinking down the line, I'm thinking we don't want to muddy the water. Someone saying they had 200,000 and they didn't touch the parking lot. So maybe we should stick to the buildings and the property that was initially mentioned, and then when we do the covenants and the deed restrictions, we make sure that all three are part of that. So we avoid someone thinking, well, they had the money, but they never fixed the parking lot. Like, things happen in the future that we don't even foresee, but it could be sort of a snowball. So
Madam
let's
Chair.
be mindful.
Excuse me, thank you, Dr. Williams, okay.
So my only
Ms.
concern, my only concern with that is Section A resolution is stating that these funds are to be authorized the chair to execute any and all documents related to such improvements, repair, renovations. You're including, so because this project is specific to those three items, regardless if any repairs are not done to the parking lot and so forth, it's the inherited language is including any and all repairs based upon the authorization of the chairperson and with the economic development director. So therefore, I'm just saying, because you're going to have to add the additional building, the duplex that's adjacent to it, then the parking lot should be included too, because it's all a part of one project.
That's what I agree, and now, Mr. Hooker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree, Ms. Jefferson. I was going to recommend that in the second whereas, we define the project as all three parcels.
Yeah.
And in the fifth whereas, we identify that its funds are for the purpose of improving, repairing, enhancing, and renovating Price Barbershop and the adjacent duplex. You define the project for perpetuity's sake. You then say these funds are to work on those two identifiable buildings within the project, and you don't preclude the chair from doing other things, but you kind of split the difference. You make it clear we include the parking lot in the whole project, and these
Right.
funds are allocated to the barbershop itself, the building next door, because we are anticipating getting additional funding for this project. So if that's acceptable, that would be what I recommend as a solution to what I've been hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hooker.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
I move to
Mayor?
adopt the resolution with the amendments, including the two additional parcels and the language regarding the city budget and the city council approval of these funds.
Okay, do I have a second?
I would move to apparently not. Let me try again.
It's 1988 and 1986, I know those.
19. Okay, I would move to adopt the resolution, including the parcels. I'm sorry, Ms. Wiley.
The property located at 1988 Harbor Avenue, and in addition, 1986 Harbor Avenue. And what's the other?
And the parking lot.
And the parking lot across the street, the undeveloped Is it a parking lot
It's a
now?
parking lot.
Yes,
It's a
it
parking
is.
lot. It's a
Okay.
parking lot now.
Yes.
In the parking lot directly across the street from the 1988 Harvard Avenue properties. And I will insert the parcel numbers before we sign.
Okay. And the language reflecting the city council vote
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
discussed earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's my motion. Dr. Williams, is that good enough?
I know what you're saying, but I didn't hear you, so yes, good.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 1988, 1986, and the parcel ID number for the parking lot.
Yeah.
And the amended language in the last whereas clause and number 1 in regard to the city council.
So
Yes.
I'll
I just
send the
have-
revised resolution
Okay.
to you. I'll send it to you.
Okay, Ms. Jefferson?
So in reference to the mayor's motion, that does include the economic development director, his language that he was adding in, right?
Adding Price Barbershop
Price-
in the duplex.
In the duplex?
It
In the-
appears
okay.
twice in the
Okay,
document.
got it. Okay,
Yes, ma'am, that would include it.
perfect.
Okay.
And for my edification, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, the
Yes.
$200,000 can be used for any of those 3 parcels, or was there a distinction between the developed properties? There is.
It is a distinction.
The 88 and the 86, the funds would be allotted for those repairs.
That was.
Couldn't hear you.
Hit your red button.
1988 and 1986 would be the properties that the funds would go towards repairing. The parking lot is just part of the language for the entire resolution.
Okay, Mr. Hooker?
Yes, and I just wanted to make sure everyone's clear as to why that is. This primary objective is to stabilize and waterproof the structures. And we have funds that will allow us to do that, that will save significant funds in the future towards the renovation. The parking lot is fairly stable. So that's why there is a focus on identifying the project as a whole, but on directing these funds to stopping the water intrusion and correcting the harms done by the squatter. So I just want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with that.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion by the mayor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any, hold on, wait a minute.
I didn't hear the motion.
Okay, we'll do the motion. Can we repeat that, council?
We'll try,
If you
Madam
like,
Mayor.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, please.
The mayor proposed a motion to adopt the resolution in the packet with the following additions. In the second whereas, adding 2 additional properties to the barbershop itself, the duplex and the parking lot, and defining that as the project. In the fifth whereas, identifying that Mayor Pro Tem Jamel McKendy proposed and City Council adopted the $200,000 in the city's budget for the purpose of improving, repairing, and renovating the Price Barbershop and the adjacent duplex. In point 1 on the next page, also putting $200,000 in the city's budget and also referencing the Price Barbershop and the duplex. And then in point 3, a spelling correction, the executive director, not the executive director. So the motion that was properly seconded was to pass this resolution with those changes.
Okay, so we're going, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
And would you announce the board members' arrival for the note taker?
And
7:53. She came in at 7:53.
And Mayor Pro Tem Jamel McKenzie has entered the room 7:53.
53.
Welcome.
Greetings and greetings.
Okay, now we'll have the GICC update. Mr. Giannis.
Good evening. Let me give you a slight update on the revenue for the convention center, the arena, and the golf course. Total revenue right now is 10.2 for GICC. The expense is 10.5. For the arena, the revenue is 4.3. The expense is 4.9. The golf course is 400,000. The expense is 427,000. For the month of February, we had several groups in, which was Showstoppers, Brazilian Jitsu, Commanders Cup, Delta Community Union, and Cheer Sports, along with the bar exam. You might think that the revenue, the expense is a little higher than the revenue, but just to give an update, we did almost $52,000 in just in-kind service. So with that being said, we still had to use the same amount of expense for doing the in-kind service.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, Mayor.
What was the in-kind service?
In-kind service is all the social functions we're doing for the city.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay,
Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Jefferson.
Hi, Giannis, thank you. I just have a question. In regards to the billboard, are we as a board, are we allowed to approve that change to update it from the pixel to a LED screen because of the issues with the,
I can't be
Picture
100%
division.
clear on that, but it
Okay.
is out for bid.
Oh, it is?
We did receive
Okay.
about 5 bids back.
Okay.
They was open on last Thursday,
okay,
so now we're getting it ready to send it to the city manager.
okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, that would be great. But thank you.
No problem.
And just to respond, because even during the budget, when we were putting together the budget for this year, city council did
Oh, that's good.
deal with that. So that is an issue that even if there's any more funding needed.
Got it.
But as BIDA members, you're also citizens, so feel free to reach out to your council members
Got
as
it.
well for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Economic Development Report, Mr. Hooker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening again, everyone. Make this relatively quick. Once again, from an economic development standpoint, I want to focus on regional connection and our collaboration with our partners. Some of us were able to make it to the South Metro Development Outlook that was held at the GICC last month, and also to the State of Fulton County address. I would really like to see more of BIDA members and council members present at the upcoming State of Clayton County address, which is happening a week from today. These regional connections are important. I'm so grateful that Mayor Motley Broom was there to present and represent the city of College Park. We're also conducting historic preservation. I guess I should have put this earlier because you all have already discussed this extensively, the Price Barbershop visit, and engaging the general contractor, architect, and grant writer to move forward. And so another item you've asked for is a website. And so that's been an interesting adventure because the city is undergoing a redo of its website. BIDA technically has a page, www.collegeparkga.com/BIDA, on the city's website. So what we focused on is what do we need within that city construct and what can we execute on right away. And these were the items that the working group in communications recommended that we start to focus on, and that we also create what's called have our own URL, www.cpbida.com.gov as well, that will redirect to the longer page that it takes to get to BIDA. And this is simply a breakdown of the pages that were recommended from the homepage with our mission to business and investment opportunities. Now this says incentives and grants. It's supposed to, BIDA doesn't really do grants, and so we modified that to focus on loans, but also incentives. Now that that you as board members this year post-training have indicated that incentives is something we'd like to really put on the table. We want to make sure that the world knows we're open for business. From an economic development standpoint, we also want to point people to the right resources for starting and growing a business within College Park. from a community and quality of life standpoint, we want to make sure that we are focused on, especially in this area, workforce development. We need to make sure that the good news that are coming out of these meetings is made publicly available in an easy to find location. Even success stories, and then making sure that that folks out there know how to reach us. So the idea is this website is something that's coming up. It's something that I particularly followed up on from previous discussions about job postings and potentially bidding out for contractual services. And so on an update on the contractual services standpoint, you all authorized me to go to market with an RFP for legal services as long as we kept using attorney LaTanya Wiley. Well, it turns out that now we are directly engaged with attorney LaTanya Wiley, and unless you direct me otherwise, under the learned professions exception, I recommend we continue to engage with attorney LaTanya Wiley with the outstanding level of service that she has provided us. So that concludes my economic development report, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
You got it. Okay.
Okay,
Any questions? I forgot to say that.
okay.
Hi.
Any
Madam Chair.
questions? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. I just have one question in regards to the website. We had discussed in the past about focusing on our branding, clearly College Park, but you know how it has that under land in plain sight. So we were saying, why can't we have our available parcels that are for sale listed on there somehow? And then as well as the information on how people were interested, who did they contact, what's the procedure and so forth. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Okay, Mr. Hooker.
It's as if you had a bug in the room where I was discussing this with the web developers earlier. I whipped out the SOPs and said, we got a whole action set of things, that information that we need to gather from people who are interested in doing business with us. But I also indicated, and they were supportive of this, it's my intention to engage brokerage services to move forward with actively listing some of our choice properties. And at next month's BIDA meeting, with your permission, I will have our broker present a recommendation on some properties that we should market, along with, as part of the budget discussion that we'll be having next month, talking about actually investing in marketing the properties. The benefit of having a broker who is subscribed to the most important services, such as CoStar, is that you can then have those properties listed in a widely available area and linked to and referenced on your site, so that someone else is actively maintaining those listings and keeping them up to date, because that's what's crucial in going to market. And I've determined that, you know, some of my predecessors were personally marketing the properties, and there's some challenges with that, and you want to have real estate professionals out there doing it. And so the web team assured me that we would be able to show actively listed properties linked onto our website from another location. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Awesome, thank you.
Madam Chair, Mayor.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have a question. I just have comments. You know, I like to give credit where credit is due, and for people to be able to experience the roses while they can still smell it. And so with this economic development report, I just want to really give a shout out to economic development interim. I hate saying that, but I hope he becomes our permanent. I don't have anything to do with it now. But I really want to thank interim executive director Brian Hooker and our economic development as well. Brian, you have brought a freshness to the city. I'm sure our city manager is happy, because there's a lot of things that were put on him this time last year, and the initiatives that you're undertaking. As I am out in the world of politics and governmental situations, your name carries a lot of weight, and I'm just really grateful for what you're doing. It's not an easy job. If it was, everybody would do it well, but you have been, and Attorney LaTanya, the same for you. I'm so happy that you are still with us. And my chairwoman, you are amazing. So I just wanted to just kind of give some shout outs to say it is a pleasure. I have been involved with the Business Industrial Development Authority for over 5 years. And what I see now, I really believe that we're going to see some really positive things happening, and we're seeing it for our city. So I just wanted to say thank you to the trio of you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we're gonna move on. We can go ahead and do the presentation.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna do it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So next, and we appreciate you all amending the agenda to allow this to happen. We have Ben Crespi with PMG, Property Markets Group, who is our residential 6 West developer, here for a follow-on presentation that was called for at last month's BIDA meeting. So Ben, are you set to go?
Yeah.
Okay, we need microphone on you, and we need it to be closer to you so that everyone in the audience can hear. If you move it 6 inches closer to you, I'd be
Sure. Let me just
appreciate
put this
that.
Presentation up. Can I go up there or you here?
Wherever you feel more comfortable.
Yes, microphone works up there?
Hello? Yeah, I think so. Does this have a laser on? Don't worry about it. Okay.
Does that have a laser? It has a laser. Just press buttons. Not big one, press the other one and see if the laser.
Oh, there you go. There we go. Oh, awesome. Thank you for inviting me back for the opportunity to advance the project. I really appreciate it. When we spoke last, the resolution tasked PMG on the following subject matters. On the site plan, there are several things from lower density, walkability, indoor and outdoor amenities, pathways, and a mixed use setting. We also asked for PMG to look into affordable housing, have a discussion on the Brady Center, present a 12-month schedule, and lastly, we propose next steps. And that's what we're here to do. Next slide, please.
You've got the clicker. Okay.
What?
We have the clicker.
Oh, sorry. With me from Cooper Carey is Trevor. My colleague Nicolia had a personal family matter, so Trevor's here. He worked with Nicolia pretty close. And we have 2 site plans to present to you. One with the Brady Center where it is and one where it's relocated. Real quick, what we did, as you can see. Oh, sorry, wrong one. This is our development right here-ish. So why don't you present, talk through, and then I'll fill in gaps.
It's this one? Oh, perfect. So before I present, I want to say that these plans are a reflection of our previous community engagement that we had in response to some community concerns about the plans. So the plan that you're seeing right here has the Brady Center in place as it is. And we wanted to emphasize the Brady Center being the heart of the community, bringing the community together. So you'll start to see various amounts of trails. You see bridges over the creek. You'll start to see like these different parklets that create micro neighborhoods and communities, as I like to call them, from townhomes to multifamily to flats. The south portion, we have more so a mixed-use community. So there's retail. They'll have outdoor dining, which you'll see at 1. And 2, in response to the community engagement, more outdoor amenities such as parks, multi-use trails, and also different outdoor rec activities. We also want to emphasize the Brady Center being the heart where it brings the amphitheater that brings this community center together as well.
Before you click, just some things to point out. So items of note, pocket parks here, 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 here. And then this is all open green space. So that can accommodate everything from dog parks to farmers markets to whatever. We heard a lot of those comments in the last presentation. We also had a multi-use trail that's biking.
Microphone, please. The people watching can't hear you, sir. Thank you.
Sorry. We also have multi-use trails wrapping along the north of the property that then come down into the property, and these are going to be biking, jogging, and walking. We also had 4 crossings of the Camp Creek Parkway, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's to connect the communities to the north to the properties here. And then what we decided to show is if we look at this as potentially a 2-phase project. Phase 1 is what we have in contract right here. And as you'll see on the schedule, we're prepared to break ground this calendar year. Next slide. Or I don't know how to do that.
Pull this up a little bit. So Plan B, what you're seeing is the Brady Center move further south, well, that's creating more so of a town center. So there's still a multi-use trail, but the multi-use trail is now bringing you south and north, connecting you back to the amphitheater. And so with this multi-use trail in particular, it's taking you basically through the entire site, connecting you through a micro park. You see this micro park here. And so as you'll start to see, like I mentioned before in the previous plans, even though this is an entire townhouse community, they're broken up by these parks, which is in a big response to our community engagement event that we had, where a lot of residents emphasized they wanted to see more parks, multi-use trails, and it's bringing everyone outside, which creates community within our townhouse community. Coming further south, there was also a mention of like a food truck park. And so where you see the Brady Center now, this can be mixed use for food truck park, micro activations, pop-ups for small retailers, because we still have retail that's on this side as well. And so we're showing 45,000 square feet of retail, and 60,000 square feet on the previous plan. In addition, we're getting more multifamily units and townhouse units on this plan as well. But a big emphasis is us creating a heart space within the Brady Center and connecting everyone through our multi-use trails.
And it's to note as we go into the schedule that we'll present to you, this project is very executable and feasible. This part right here that's in contract, we're prepared to go forward on that immediately, as you'll see in our schedule. This is a wish list of would be nice, and we look forward to discussing with you how to make that happen. The reason, and we can get into it on maybe the next slide. Is there another slide? Or can I do that? That's backwards. There we go. So let's just jump into affordable housing real quick. We were asked to look into affordable options. And as you see, we looked into affordable housing options, and these are different programs at the federal level, but we crossed it out because we really think that term is not appropriate here. What we are more interested in is doing attainable housing. And one of the things we wanted to present in front of BIDA is to create a home ownership grant program that could provide subsidy to city municipal workers, police, fire, teachers. And we also think there could be a program for families or next to kin to right the wrong of the homes that were taken away from eminent domain, have those families be eligible for a grant to buy a home on the property. We're targeting maybe 5 or 10%, so it wouldn't be over. It's a little less than we might see in a marketplace, but we think if 5 or 10% of the homes did have grant subsidy, you would be able to have your police officers who are making, I think, $65,000 a year make homeownership possible for them. We think it could be funded with land proceeds, and we think it could be a program that's solely controlled by the city. So you wouldn't have to, these programs up here, you're dealing with the Fed and their restrictions, their approvals, and that would also delay the project, and that's not what we're interested in. Again, we would like to break ground this year. The Brady Center. So the Brady Center, we were asked to look at enhancements, and due to the, and maybe you can speak to in a minute, in trying to upgrade, expand a historic building is very complicated and it's not efficient. To expand the building and tie in roof lines is very risky from drainage standpoints. To tie into antiquated mechanical systems and or expand mechanical systems for additional square footage also creates complexities. And lastly, there's no land for it. You not only do, say we were to add a pool, there's no room for a pool. We would have to add locker rooms and there's no parking. So we think enhancement is very challenging. And one of the things we wanted to propose as next steps, not to have a discussion now, is we would like to propose a community charrette to really get a feel for what the community wants. So here's a schedule that we're proposing. We would like to have the community meeting this month. There was discussions last week of doing it on the weekend. We're happy to make ourselves available. We can come down in 2 weekends. If we can get a Brady Center discussion this month, that would allow us over the next 2 months, and I didn't add it on here, but if we did have a meeting in 2 weeks with the Brady Center, we would ask, rather than waiting a month to come back and meet with BIDA, if there was a special session with BIDA to expedite and help push this forward, PMG would be happy to come down and have that discussion to discuss the feedback we got from the community meeting on the Brady of enhancement versus replacement. We think the residents should weigh in on what they want. With that said, with getting direction and clarity this month on the Brady Center, we'd be prepared to submit our site plan in April. So in 2 weeks or next month, we think it would take a month or two of between putting it together, submitting it, and getting comments. But we would like to have our site plan approval completed in May. Due to some of the scope changes in what we've presented in lowering density, we would like to have a discussion on some amendments to the PSA. Again, that would be in the future. Again, right now, our focus on next steps, as you'll see, is we need to sort out what we're doing with the Brady. And if it stays, fine. If it gets replaced, we think that's a value add to the community and to the project. But again, we think the community should have a voice in that. With that said, at the same time, right when we're getting our site plan approval completed in May is when we would jump right into civil design. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 6 months budgeted for civil design. That would mean our design would be completed in October. We'd also like to work with the city and have our land disturbance permit issued the same month. If that's possible, we're breaking ground in November of this year. Construction commencement. Whether or not we enhance Brady or it's replaced, there will be design work that will have to be done. We would like this, that should start right when we get our approvals on our permits in May. And also, as you know, if we go back, this land right here is not in contract. We would like to make an unsolicited proposal to have a vision to you. You could say no, we understand. You could say yes. We'd like to have that discussion with you. We think that discussion would be appropriate after we get our site plan approval and we start on our civil design. So with that said, in terms of next steps, we would like to have a community charrette. Oh shit, sorry. 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 We would like to have our community charrette on the 29th of this month or sooner. We'd be happy to come down with our design team. Our design team's based here. And then we would ask if a special session with BIDA would be available the week after. Again, we want to push. We don't want to have to wait 3 weeks to have a discussion on what we want to do.
Okay.
Ben, does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much for coming down and sharing your vision, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. We're
I
gonna
have some
have,
questions.
I have some questions.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, Dr. Williams first.
Okay. Ben,
Yes.
I want to know, where did you get the impression that the Brady Center can be moved? Was it from this body or was it from the community?
It was from the community. It started out with one discussion about 6 months ago, where a gentleman said to us, when we did limited engagement, the quote was, while I appreciate the historic nature, I want my kids to have 21st century amenities or a state-of-the-art community center. So the idea, we never thought about touching it. The idea popped in our head, was presented to us by the community. And then in our last several design charrettes last month, when we asked folks, when we followed up on that comment, there was overwhelming support for it.
I do believe that FOA, you're not familiar with FOA, but for the residents and this body, FOA is most importantly the ones who should have a say in whether or not the center is moved. Because it has some historical meaning to that body, to that group of people. And I'm not against moving or enhancing, but I do believe the people who are most directly affected should be part of the discussion more so.
We would look to coordinate with that group who was, I was told about that group before. So I think we would be happy to have a meeting prior to the design charrette and to have a meeting with them directly and to have them at the meeting as well.
Yeah, that's very important. And then my second question, I wanted to go back to the grant for the attainable housing. Could you please go over that a little bit more? Because I'm trying to figure out, you briefly mentioned about the sales, you know, some of the money going to the grant, but where else? Where else could we possibly get funding from in order to allow our workforce to be able to afford to live in the new developments?
So what we were envisioning was a program that did not require bureaucratic collaboration at the state or federal level, which would delay the project in order to line up, because those entities would be providing funds into the capital stack. So until those funding is arranged, the project can't proceed. So an example would be LIHTC, the Low Income Housing Tax Credit. That's a competitive program that's funded by the Fed, administered by the state. It's very competitive right now. And there's just a lot of constraints on what you can do in terms of a building, how amenities are segregated or not segregated. It just adds a level of complexity. And so our thought was, if there was a grant pot of money that was funded from the land proceeds, the city could control, maybe through a lotto system, which eligible buyers get the grant to buy a home. We've seen a similar program that P&G is looking at in Western Massachusetts. The state's providing $250,000. We're not proposing that here as a different market, but we think if there was a grant that was, say, 20 to 40,000 ish per home. So if you're a policeman and there's a home, I think the townhomes say they're 320,000, maybe starting 350. You're getting 15 to 20% off the purchase price. That would come with a deed restriction, so someone can't just flip the home and pocket the money. But again, the idea was, what's a program that would be quick to execute, would give the city total control, and would actually have a very direct and meaningful impact to the community. And that's why we are proposing just not the municipal workers, but also families and the next of kin whose homes were demolished in the 80s. They should possibly be considered for this lotto system of a grant to buy a townhome or a home with a subsidy. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I have a lot to say. I want to thank you for waiting or, for wanting to have me be a part of this presentation today. I want to start off by making sure that we are putting the horse in front of the cart. I'm almost 100% sure that the property where the Brady Center sits does not belong to BIDA, but belongs to the city of College Park, which owns all of its recreation centers and properties. Just as with the Bill Evans Field, which is extremely controversial decision of the council, that property had to be deeded over to BIDA for BIDA to be able to look at developing it. And so with the property where Brady Center is, I don't even believe that it's appropriate for us to be having a discussion regarding the Brady Center at all as the BIDA board. I believe this is something that has to start with the city council. So that's the horse in front of the cart. The other situation, Ben, is in righting the wrongs. I am so excited about the fact that a lot of this project is geared towards righting the wrong, but we can't right a wrong with another wrong. Again, I said that I am probably the senior person that's affiliated with BIDA longer than any person in this room. And when I first became a part of BIDA, we were talking about the 6 West project, and there was discussion about the Brady Recreation Center being sold off. In the 6 West project, there was a major stir from the community, specifically the African American community. The African American community of those persons that were still left here, their families many were displaced by this 311 acres that we're looking at right now called 6 West. They were the homes of persons, they were the businesses of the original African Americans that lived in the city of College Park. And the only remnant of this community currently is the Price Barbershop with the adjacent duplex, a cemetery that is desecrated behind College View Hills, and the Brady Center. A part of the Brady Center recreation has already been sold as a part of the parcel or put into the parcel of this 6 West assemblage, which is an historic baseball field. The Brady baseball field is an historic field, which was the location of where the Negro League played. And that field is now a part of this 55-acre subdivision that we're looking at. And to even think about relocating the Brady Center is going to require more than a charrette on the 29th of March. There are people that are affected and impacted by this Brady Recreation Center that are all over the state of Georgia. Because again, we are talking about families that were displaced. We're not necessarily talking about families that still live in College Park. And yes, I am in total agreement with us doing some things to upgrade. I just threw 200, since we're talking about monies that came out of my budget for this 2024-2025 year, I put over $200,000 into having a new air conditioning system put in the Brady Recreation Center, which will be installed in the next 3 weeks. And this is because the Brady Recreation Center has been the stepchild of recreation centers. It has been the one that has been neglected and negated. And I just think at this time, if PMG needs to stick with the 55 acres that you have been allotted and that we are talking about in this development plan right now, And that our community, as you go forward with your project, I understand wanting to do more, but the Brady Center is not up for sale. It's not a part of this parcelage. It belongs to the city of College Park and not BIDA. And there are people and lives and sentimental value. This is what I'm dealing with right now as the Ward 1 representative. I have people that are very incensed because they feel like a baseball field is being taken from them that has sentimental value. But these same individuals, and this baseball field was the whites-only baseball field at one time. And the sentiment for our neighborhood, the historic College Park neighborhood, is that many of the homes that were only inhabited by Caucasian Americans in College Park still are standing in this city. There are still a lot of historic locations and destinations, designations in my ward that represent a part of my community, but there are not historic landmarks that represent the African American component, which takes up 91% currently of the city of College Park, the black and brown. And so when we talk about equity, we talk about fairness. I think that we need to back up, and I think that this conversation needs to focus on what the business is at hand, which is developing the 55-acre or whatever this parcelage is that PMG has. It's nice that somebody felt like they wanted to see some more done or have a Brady Center removed or replaced, but that contingency does not represent the thousands of people that come here every year for the College Park reunion, the hundreds of people that are members of the FOA group, and the persons, again, that are living in different places throughout this country and this state that once lived in this 311-acre piece of College Park. So I'm just saying that I think that this discussion is out of place and that it does not pertain to BIDA. And if anything, it should be brought before the city council for the city council to decide what they want to do.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody else?
If I can just respond to one thing. We're not looking to take ownership of the Brady Center. We're not looking to profit from it. We would not profit from it. And if it stays, we understand. If it gets replaced, we would not own it or make any profit from it. It would strictly be for the community.
I'd like to respond. I understand that. I understand that. I'm just saying that the discussion of the Brady Center should not be in the hands of BIDA at this moment. It needs to start with the owner, the rightful owner of that piece of property. So I think that we are ahead of ourselves in even considering doing anything with Brady at this time.
All right, Ms. Jefferson. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, Mayor.
I think if there's going, Madam Chair, I think if there's going to be a discussion about Brady, that it should be informed by the entire community, as Dr. Williams said. So I agree with Mayor Pro Tem that the discussion should be with council, but if there is going to be a discussion, that the entire community needs to be able to have input, including folks who lived in the area, who no longer live in the area, folks who've been here. I mean, just broad conversations, so an informed decision could be made by anyone who was making that decision. So I don't necessarily think that we shouldn't have a discussion, but it needs to be a broad one, and I agree that it should start with the City Council.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Jefferson.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to piggyback from Mayor Pro Tem McKenzie, I do understand her sentiments with her being this being her district and the previous legacy history that it impacted her constituents. However, I do think that time is of the essence, and that aesthetically, when you're doing a site planning, and if the 55 acres It's going to be focused on the residential. I think aesthetically, when you're trying to integrate an entire work, walkable, live, work, play community, that is best practices to include those conversations, but have the appropriate parties involved. But I do think that we have to recognize time is of the essence, and we don't want to slow it down. But if we have to do some other type of meeting planning, so that we have the sentiments from the community, that does take place. But we don't slow down the time clock. Thank you.
All right, Ben.
And we agree time is of the essence, and the schedule we proposed gave a sliver of time to at least have the conversation. And if there was a sliver of time, we could still break ground in this calendar year.
Anyone else? You have the schedule, okay.
So, Madam Chair, what we were looking to do today was to receive a presentation of a schedule and to have the board either adopt by consensus or motion if necessary. I think at this point we'd like to see for you to call for a motion that would allow us to proceed. Given the conversation, I think there needs to be perhaps a little more extensive discussion about a community engagement approach that, I don't know if this calendar would allow us to take advantage of the College Park reunion that the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned. I don't know how much time FOA would really need to assemble larger numbers to weigh the issues here. As a real estate practitioner, I have to agree that the issue that PMG is bringing forth is valid. As a representative of the citizens of College Park, I also caution that it is rife with things that need to be discussed. So I would like to see us hash through how the discussion is. The sense that I got is that having in 17 days a weekend charrette may not be sufficient to gather the input that we all recognize is needed here. And so to me, if we could, if you all would discuss that and maybe come to consensus on that, and then we might be ready to address the schedule, knowing that we need to impact this community input process.
Okay, Council.
Yes, I think Brian referenced the February 12th, 2025 resolution, and there were some resolutions in that, some resolves in that resolution that was approved by the board that will probably need to get revised if we're going to do something different. And let me just read the two most applicable ones. It's be it further resolved that PMG shall present the foregoing information, a site plan, at the March 12th, 2025 BIDA meeting, along with a 12-month milestone calendar for this development. Be it further resolved, the authority chair and the BIDA executive director are authorized to negotiate and execute any required documents and otherwise perform all other acts as are consistent and necessary to accomplish the intent of this resolution in accordance with a 12-month milestone plan approved by the board, including any extensions or amendments to the agreement. So that is the charge that we have right before us based upon this body's directive at the last meeting. So if we do anything else other than adopt that 12-month milestone as contemplated in this particular resolution, then we'll just need to make sure that the motion appropriately accounts for that change.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Again, I'm not trying to hold up the project. I want the project to go forward. But we need, if Brady is going to be a part of this, there's a route that needs to be done. I believe that there's a way that we can still move forward with this 12-month schedule. Now, a plan to relocate Brady is probably just all the way out in terms of that. But if PMG decides at some point that they want to make improvements, enhancements to the Brady Center as we move, that doesn't change a lot in terms of, now unless Brian can correct me, but if they're doing a site plan that actually involves moving a building, that to me is different than a site plan that may be involved using some more of the land around the Brady Recreation Center to extend or enhance that center. And I think, again, that is something, whatever we do to Brady, I mean, the moving of Brady, that's definitely going to have to be, that's going to have to go before the council. It's going to take time, and that's going to put this whole schedule. We can't make that determination. That's what I'm saying. We can't move forward with this tonight if we're looking at relocating Brady. We can move forward tonight if we're looking at leaving Brady where it is, maybe discussing enhancements in the future, and going ahead with the site plan, one of these site plans, the first site plan, I guess, that we looked at. And that's what my suggestion is at this point.
Okay, Council.
Madam Chair, if you could, Ben, could you put this 12-month calendar deadline?
Yeah,
back on
that'd be great.
I think that'd be helpful to this discussion.
Yeah, because I don't know the gentleman.
There it is. You got it. I want to pay particular attention to what's mentioned about the Brady Center and see if that language, it's just a community meeting.
So we just proposed to have a meeting and a discussion to get, I guess, input from the community on what they want.
But at the bottom, this Brady Center redesign, and that's well beyond the scope of this body's.
Whether it gets relocated or if there's enhancements that the city wants, any enhancements would. This right here, redesign, could be enhancements or replacement. It could be one or the other. Like if they wanted an interior refresh, it might not take this long, but what we're showing is any design enhancements or replacement would start around in May after we get direction from the community up here.
I think maybe if, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if we could put an asterisk by that as well. I don't know that any kind of redesign of Brady Center, I mean, this body does not own it, so that too would require action approval from the city of College Park.
I could strike that from the schedule and resubmit it before I leave.
Okay, Mr. Hooker.
I'm hearing you loud and clear, Mayor Pro Tem. The question that I have is this worth having a conversation? Our developer partner seems to believe that it's worth having a conversation regardless of the outcome. What I'm hearing is that the time frame he's proposed for that conversation about the Brady Center is not sufficient. And so if we wanted to have the conversation led by council, which two of you are here tonight, BIDA, I'm sorry, three, now that council member Karn has arrived, led by council, because it's council's property, BIDA would simply support the charrette, help market it, give our input from the perspective of the adjacent property owner, but it's you all's property, it's you all's deal. And if we want to take 2 additional, 3 additional, 4 additional weeks on this proposed schedule to make sure that that conversation is had, it's had correctly, it's had in depth, I think we walk away knowing for certain what council's will is, driven by the will of the people, for what BIDA should do in this development partnership. So You know, the question to me is that conversation worth having? Because the other alternative is to say, no, it's not. Let's proceed with the schedule, basically striking the consideration of completely enhancing or relocating the Brady Center. So to me, that's the rest of the things on the schedule make sense from a timeline perspective to me. You know, I think the developer took some real risk in the level of emphasis that he chose to place on the Brady Center, given that he was aware of the importance and significance of that to the community. But I think the market realities forced him to do so. And so if we're in partnership with this developer, do we believe that we can facilitate, the council can facilitate such a conversation in a timely manner? Or is this issue so third rail that we shouldn't talk about it at all, in which case we can take it off the table tonight and move forward with the rest of the schedule as presented?
Mayor Pro Tem.
I have no problem with enhancing and looking at the enhancement of the Brady Center. I do have a lot of issue with the relocation. So, and that is because even now I've had community members that are speaking to me that do not want that. And I've been actually checking my phone while we're in this session. I know there were the persons that came to the charrette. We did not have representation at the charrette from the FOA group or the families that were displaced. There was very little. There was just a few of those people. So there definitely needs to be more input from the community. I would have to, like I said, as a legislator, my job is to do what the majority of my folks tell me to do. So I'm telling personally right now, I can't consider the relocation of the Brady Center. If it is the will of the majority of the people that speak up in our community, I will do what the will of the people is. I'm just saying, is there a way for us to move forward with this schedule? Because it's still gonna have to go to council. It's too late to put it on the next council meeting, okay? So we're looking at least probably a month out before being able to get it on the council schedule. And then we're looking at, and then the council still, even the council meeting should be dealing with what the will of the people is for this. So this could put us out 2 more months. Now, if we feel like we want to take more time, I just didn't think that the will of BIDA is to continue to prolong moving forward with the project. So, you know, I'm open, but I'm just saying, I thought that my understanding that tonight's decision was based on a schedule, voting on a schedule, not a new project.
Hold on a minute. I'll recognize Ms. Jefferson. I'll be remiss as a longtime resident of the city of College Park. And Brady Recreation Center is just a pillar. And that was one of the things I think I expressed, that did not want, to touch Brady because of the historical nature of the, not just the building, but the history, the families. It's something to me because I've been at Brady many times. My kids have participated. When I started my program, I did my first event there, Girls of Favor. That was, so it's like, it's a lot of history. And me personally, I do not want to see Brady, touch. But if it's the city's, it's not BIDA's anyway, we're tapping into something that, it's not, our purview at this time. So that's my opinion. And hold 1 second, Mr. Ben. Ms. Jefferson is first.
I just want to just add to it that we recognize the sensitivity on what's needed for Brady, but I do want us to keep cognizant of when you have a residential developer that's coming in to a topography space that has no retail, has no other community engagement resources. The only thing left you have are amenities. So we have to keep in mind that I get it that they probably added this to their schedule. Now, this is the first time I'm ever hearing about Brady moving. I just thought that from the charrettes that it was just to provide renovations and enhancement. But I do want us to keep in mind that with that type of significant residential community, you need amenities in order to keep people engaged. So I do think that we should recognize that we do need input from the community. The sooner we can do that, the better. Because if their timeline they're giving us is 12 months and they have it laid out and issues with supply chain and what's going on with this economy, we definitely, I do think that give the opportunity to the community to respond. That can always be tailored and curated, but let us not stop the progress. But like I said, I'd never heard of the Brady Center moving until tonight. So if that is, I think that's a whole different conversation. And I think that would fall into play with their land disturbance permit and surveying and all of that. I mean, you're opening up a lot when it comes to that. But as far as enhancement and keeping the historic value and nature and the legacy and that history, prioritize, I think that we have the opportunity to do it. And get the positive or, just feedback from the community, because during the charrettes, they did provide input on what they wanted. And I think it did include information on what they wanted to at the Brady. So I just think that we don't stop. We continue the continuity, we continue the progress, but we have the necessary conversations from the community, from FOA, and put a timeline and planning to it. But I think that it will be advantageous for us to approve this timeline in conjunction with Brady Center being separate conversations and separate meetings and separate social engagement until we get further clarification. But if the developer is saying to us, hey, a part of our entire site plan, we want to be able to provide enhancement due to the fact that it is a residential community, and we want to provide amenities, and we probably need to, just come to the table and readdress it somehow, but sooner rather than later.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'd like to say a
Okay.
couple of words.
All right, Councilman Carnes.
Good evening, everybody, and I guess I'm coming in a little bit late, but a couple of things. As far as I know, relocation of the Brady Center was never at any point a part of the interest of PMG or this city or BIDA, number one. I've met with you a few times. We met since last year and talked about a few things and what your interest was. And every time we had a conversation, it included the Brady Center remaining at the same spot and you all building around it. Our charrettes are good. Redesign is okay. Now, for me personally, relocation is not going to work. And there's quite a few reasons. But a lot of times what happens is that you have community charrettes, and that does move some of the amenities and some of the things, and you get enough input from the community in terms of things they would like to see. I was at one of the charrettes. Everything on that charrette board can be done with the Brady Center intact. Every single thing that the community asks for, every single dot can be done with the Brady Center intact. Your LOI included the Brady Center intact. This PSA included the Brady Center intact, and you had no problem, none whatsoever, with leaving the Brady Center intact. That was part of the agreement, and there are groups of folks in College Park, and let's just be honest here. that could care less about the Brady Center, that could care less about it. But one of the things we have to understand, we had the conversation then, we want to develop this area, and one of the things we have to understand about our history is in terms of this city. What we're doing right now is about the history and the future of this city. But we have a past with the history of this city and what happened in that community. So we have to keep that in mind as well. And what we're talking about right now, these stories and these decisions are going to be archived and retold to our children and our youth, so that no one ever forgets what went on in College Park and what we did in College Park and putting our residents first and all of our residents. You got to remember something, we're talking about developing an area where those residents of that area were pretty much wiped out and didn't have much of a choice in the matter. We have charrettes, we listen to residents, but that does not mean we act on or do a 180 on a plan or a proposal that included Brady in every step of the decision-making process. And now we get close to the end of due diligence, and we're ready to take some action. And we want to remove something that I don't think should be removed. When the 5th runway was designed and the plans were made, the positioning, if this is the 5th runway, the positioning and orientation of the 5th runway could have easily been drawn to wipe out the historic neighborhood of Ward 1. I hope y'all are following me. It was made that the runway approach zone was wiping out a particular neighborhood. It could have been oriented anyway. I hope y'all are hearing me here. It was oriented towards one of the poorest neighborhoods and low-income neighborhoods in our community that had for many decades been, I guess, given the short end of the stick, so to speak. So I think this is a great development and project. And again, everything in the charrettes can be done with the Brady Center intact. It's just an old building. Well, so is the historic golf course clubhouse. So is the College Park Women's Club. And we have lots of historic buildings that have value to this community. But this development can be great. Modifications and renovations, absolutely. But the footprint of the building, I think, needs to remain intact. And in terms of my vote, it will remain intact. This is Councilwoman McKenzie's district and area, but we all share this community. So I think we can have a great development and move forward, but that was never on the table. And everything that someone says in the charrette doesn't put it on the table. But did anyone at the charrette say demolish the Brady Center? They put the dots and the improvements that they'd like to see in the Brady Center and around the area of the Brady Center. So I think we get creative and you make the adjustments that you need to make, and we move forward with this development. We're excited about it.
Right.
But we're not going to erase or eliminate a significant portion of our history for one development here. We've erased enough of our community, getting us in the situation we're in now. This was long before and predates all of us in terms of governing and public policy, but we are where we are. We want to move forward with new development, new things, a new community, but we also have to recognize our heritage and recognize our past as well. But keeping that center does not ruin this development by any stretch. And I know you can do a great development. That building's got good bones, and you guys can work your magic and make it a tremendous amenity to this new community. So I'm all for moving forward. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay,
Just
hold
point
on
of
a
order.
second. Okay,
Just for the attorney, would you please clarify that there is not a quorum of the city council here in this meeting right now? There are people that are saying that there's a quorum. I just wanted the record to reflect.
No, there's not a quorum.
And explain for the public in 2 sentences what a quorum actually is, so they understand what you're saying, because they're counting 3 and they may be confused. So we want to clear up that confusion pretty quickly if you can.
The Georgia, the public, going back to what the public meetings law says, this was a BIDA public meeting that, where the legislative enactment of BIDA appoints by operational law 2 members of city council who are sitting here in their capacity as BIDA board members. They're not here sitting in capacity as city council members or the mayor. I think we refer to them out of respect for their position, their larger position, but Mayor Pro Tem and the Mayor Motley Broom are here as BIDA members. And so we have one council member, Councilman Carn, that does not constitute a city quorum, city council quorum.
And just to clarify that, a quorum of 3 council members.
Yes,
Not
that's true.
council members and a mayor.
And the mayor,
I want
correct.
to translate that so the public understands if
That's
they're
it.
counting 3 and saying, hey, there are 3 people here, that constitutes a public meeting of the city council. It does not, to be clear. If there were 3 council members here, you would be looking at a quorum. But 2 council members and a mayor do not constitute that. So I want to make it crystal clear for the public to dispel some of this craziness that we hear all the time, and people making up what is and what is not a meeting of the governing body or a quorum.
That is an alternate and the viable, probably the first legal argument to be made. And the second one is that the council, the Mayor Pro Tem and the mayor are sitting here by operational law. They're designated to be here as BIDA members, and they're speaking and voting in their capacity as BIDA members. That's the secondary part, but yes, there are not 3 council members present in this room. And I would even say, even if there were, I would argue that because of the Mayor Pro Tem's designation as a BIDA members, I would think that that would not be a quorum as well.
But even if they weren't here in their function as BIDA, it would not be a quorum. I just want to make it clear.
That's true.
I just want to
Tonight,
make it
correct,
clear. So
yes. that's
even
true.
without BIDA, if we were in a room, it's not a quorum and we're discussing things.
That is true.
So I just want to clear that and set the record straight.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Thank you, council, for that clarification. I want to recognize Ben.
Thank you. So just to respond to a few comments. To Chairwoman Willis, you're right. We're not here tonight to say replace Brady. All we were here to say is to show them the schedule. We just think there should be a community meeting. That's all. And that's why we showed 2 site plans in place and it shifted. We're not the idea is not to get rid of it. It would be to shift it south. To your point, Councilman Carn, you're right. We did have an LOI and a purchase and sale agreement. And since then, members of the community spoke up and asked us to consider replacing it. We're happy to ignore those comments and not surface them to BIDA, but we don't think that's our responsibility. Our job is to say, hey, look, we've heard these comments. We'd like to have a discussion. Thirdly, the schedule that we presented to you, you'll notice it has the Brady Center discussion in March and then site plan approval in April and May. It's not going to take us 2 months to get a site plan in front of you. We got a site plan in 4 weeks before. This includes some buffer because we knew this might be a little hairy. And we also have nothing in month 12. So we front loaded the front of the schedule with 2 months for something that really could take a month. And all we said is we just want to have a discussion with the community. We're not asking for a decision tonight on the Brady. We proposed 2 scenarios just to show what it would look like. And we just wanted to have a discussion with the community. If the city council needs to weigh in and it takes some time, our schedule can accommodate that. Again, there's nothing in month 12. Should anything be pushed back? And we also don't need 2 months here to do this work. This can be done in 1 month. So if the Brady shifted to 2 months, and again, wherever the outcome is, we're fine with. We just wanted the community to weigh in because we heard a lot of support. And so yes, to
Thank you.
Councilman Carn. In the community charrettes, people did say, we would like a new community center. It doesn't, it wasn't enhance. It was known that, because enhancements aren't possible due to the technicalities of the building. We can get into that later, but enhancing, like, we can't just add a pool and locker rooms and tie into an old mechanical system and expand roof lines. It's just, it's not feasible.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crispy. Councilman
Well,
Carn?
I'll just say this, this governing body would never ignore the community. The reason why we had the charrettes, two charrettes, is to hear the community out. Now, it's the governing body's job to take those community requests under advisement and make the best decision that we can. A new community center does not constitute necessarily a full replacement of a community center. Those are two different things. When someone says we want a new community center, I think your development team is creative enough to put together a new community center without moving the footprint of the current center itself.
Would that be a new building?
There are many different types of overhauls of buildings and structures. And I'm sure that you can include and incorporate every one of the community's desires and wishes. Well, not everyone. We can't accommodate every single thing that someone asks for and an amenity that everyone wants to see.
It's not in our contract, as
Okay,
Mackenzie said.
And
it's not in our-
Mr. Ben, excuse me, Councilman Carn is speaking.
And I heard you out.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Again, at the end of the day, we always hear from the community. This is Councilwoman Mackenzie's district in particular. I'm excited about the development. I want to see it happen. When you guys came into town, I was excited. We sat down, we talked. You all said at no point, well, we cannot do this unless we remove the Brady Center and relocate it. None of that was discussed. None of that was brought up. And we said that that was, not something that we were interested in. For me, it's something I'm still not interested in. I am very interested in development and doing this project with you all. We are very, very excited about doing that. And we can renovate, I think, to the terms of what is satisfactory and a first-class quality amenity to center your residential development here. So I think it can be done.
So we never said we can't proceed if the Brady says. We actually have a site plan right here.
Hey, Ben.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me. I think we kind of keep going back and forth with this, but I think right now, we have enough information to go forward.
I just have one statement, if that's okay.
Okay.
I'll make it real quick. I'll make it less than.
Okay, hurry up quickly.
One of the reasons I was late today is I'm just getting back from Yountville, California. I spent 5 days there. I met with the mayor. I met with the mayor pro tem. Saw what they're doing in their city. And they've done a project very similar to this, and they're actually undertaking it right now. And they have been able to upgrade existing community centers. They're building a beautiful, it's going to be 12 housing units. 12 buildings, but it's a wonderful project. I'm going to spend more time with them and talk to our economic development about it. But this is being done all over the country. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to tear it down. We can renovate, we can upgrade without having to get rid of some of the things that are very sentimental for persons and historical. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right. What else do we need? I think we need to table the, wait a minute, not table.
We can.
Okay.
Can we put the, Madam Chair? I'm sorry.
Yeah, can we
the
put that back
schedule
up one more time? The timeline.
Dan, I think you accidentally went to the, we just wanted to look at the timeline. I think, Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, please.
I think it's important to note that any reference to the Brady Center redesign or enhancement or community, that that there be, if you want to keep that language there, that we understand this is discussion purposes only, and we have another asterisk that says that BIDA's approval of this schedule does not constitute approval of any redesign or enhancements to the Brady Center, because it is owned by the city of College Park. That, I think that disclaimer will possibly allow conversations to continue, but also we will know on the record that approving this schedule does not mean we're approving any, that this body is approving any Brady Center redesigns, because you can't, because you don't own it. So I just think if the goal, if the will of the majority of the board is to approve a schedule tonight, then I would just ask, we have another double asterisk disclaimer in the manner in which I just stated.
Okay, Ms. Jefferson.
Madam Chair, so based upon the attorney's advice, can we go ahead and motion to accept the timeline with those amended?
My comment, Board Member Jefferson, was if the will of the body, if y'all wanted to have a schedule adopted tonight, that we have that disclaimer. This body has the option of not having any, taking any motion or taking any final action on the schedule and tabling it or moving it to another meeting. I was just offering up an alternative if the majority wanted to have something adopted tonight.
Can I ask one more question? And I know I'm not voting, but.
All right, Councilman Carnes.
For me, I'm fine with redesign and renovation, absolutely. So the schedule as is great. As long as I didn't see Brady Center relocation there, I'm good.
And that's why we kept it vague. A redesign could be anything.
I wouldn't change anything and keep the same calendar date and keep this thing moving. I think it's going to be a great project. And we'll work with you and make sure that redesign is where people walk in there and they say, this is a whole new deal. And I think it'll be great.
And if we, Madam Chair?
Yes, please,
If
Council.
we put it something to note that this BIDA does not own, the Brady Center is owned by the city of College Park. Let's just put that down on there so there won't be any confusion as to what's being approved by the adoption of the schedule. And that's just for my, to help me sleep better at night.
Okay, we have a motion.
So do you need a motion or you just need consensus?
The February 12th resolution presumed that this body would be adopting a schedule tonight.
Oh, okay.
And then this schedule will be administered by the chair and executive director in accordance with that resolution. So the motion could be motion to approve the schedule for the completion of the phase for the PMG residential development with the notation noted by the attorney regarding Brady Center's ownership.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Jefferson, second by the mayor. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any other issues? Thank you. Before we go into executive session.
I just have one comment.
Okay, Ms. Jefferson.
I see the amazing progress with our pedestrian bridge. My only question is, are we going to have lighting on that? Is there going to be like some sort of lighting on it?
Yes.
You are, okay.
It's uplighting along all of the spires.
Got it.
Support the bridge. That's
Okay.
already been installed.
Oh, okay.
I'm understanding we're delayed until May.
Gotcha.
That's what Prime Engineering told me, but,
Okay.
they're supposed to send you something, Doctor. They said.
Got it.
I'm sorry.
All right.
So then my only other comment would be, is it possible, I don't know if BIDA is in charge of that, but as far as cleanup around it, we have a lot of overgrowth over the fencing. It's just like a lot of, so I don't know if there's.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
we've blocked.
Okay, Dr. Adadir.
Yeah, we've blocked them, all entrances
Oh, okay.
We removed over 300 used car tires.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's-
Okay, and then shingles, I mean, name it.
Okay.
The only thing we didn't get from there is dead body and.
Okay.
Yes, no, for real. I mean,
Well,
homelessness, you have homeless people,
Okay.
you know, have come there, you know, 3 different areas there, you know, so. No, so
Okay.
we have Jesse walls, so no vehicle
Okay.
can drive in there, you know, we have all that.
Okay, great, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Okay, Mr.
Madam Chair,
Hooker.
for the note taker, under topic 8, other issues, there was a discussion about the pedestrian bridge. That's what you noted, so that you can keep the minutes up to date. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Nothing else, motion to go into executive session. Oh, okay, I got it. Executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate acquisition disposition matters.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, who moved executive?
Okay. Dr. Williams, moved, solicit second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Executive session.
Thank you.